People used to tell me my parents were lucky. They had 2 daughters, both bright and beautiful, both successful in their own way. What they didn't know was that in our house there was only ever one perfect daughter. And it wasn't me. My sister Emily was the kind of person who seemed born under a gentler sky. She was graceful, soft, spoken, always immaculate in her white blouses and pastel skirts. By the time she was 26, she had graduated medical school, married a surgeon, and bought a house with hydrangeas lining the walkway. My parents adored her. They spoke about her as if she were a miracle carved by divine hands. I was the other one. The creative one, the unpredictable one, the one who had potential if only she'd apply herself. While Emily dissected cadavers and studied anatomy, I stayed up all night sketching wedding dress designs and floral layouts, dreaming of colors and lights. I built my own wedding planning business from nothing, just stubbornness and a second-hand laptop. No financial help, no fancy degree, just me and my messy heart. Still, it was never enough. Every family dinner felt like a polite performance where I played the role of the younger sister, trying not to disappoint. My mother's compliments came with invisible strings. "That's a lovely dress, dear. Emily wore something similar to her graduation. Your little business seems fun. Have you thought about something more stable, like event management for hospitals?" I learned to smile and sip my water. I learned not to flinch. When I met Daniel, everything changed. He was gentle where I was fiery, patient where I was restless. He saw my chaos and called it brilliance. The night he proposed, under fairy lights on the beach, I felt like the universe had finally handed me a small, glittering apology. Telling my parents should have been joyous. Instead, it felt like a job interview. Mom clasped her pearls and smiled tightly. "Oh, that's wonderful, sweetheart. When's the wedding?" "Next summer," I said. "I already have a vision. A lakeside ceremony, floating lanterns, a live quartet." Her smile faltered. "Leela, darling, don't you think that's a bit much? Emily's wedding was simple and elegant. You don't want to look like you're trying to outshine her. Outshine her." Those words sat between us like a slap. I tried to laugh. "Mom, I'm not competing with Emily. I just want something that feels like us." Dad folded his newspaper, looking up with that weary sigh I knew too well. "You always do things the hard way. Just keep it modest, okay? People might talk." I nodded, because that's what I always did nod, smile, swallow the sting. But that night, as I sat beside Daniel planning color palettes and tasting cakes, something inside me hardened. I was tired of shrinking myself to fit into the space my parents allowed. Tired of pretending my dreams were childish because they were bright. For once in my life, I wanted to celebrate without apology. For once, I wanted to shine, and not care if it outshone anyone. What I didn't know then was that choosing my own light would cost me their presence entirely. The weeks leading up to the wedding were supposed to be filled with laughter, late night planning, and happy nerves. Instead, my phone felt heavier every time it buzzed. Every message from my mother was another gentle criticism wrapped in politeness. "Do you really need fireworks, Leela? It feels unnecessary. Emily didn't have a designer gown, and hers was classy." Even my father's messages carried the same quiet disapproval. "We hope you're not spending too much on appearances." It wasn't about appearances. It was about joy, mine and Daniel's. Yet the more I tried to explain, the more it sounded like I was defending myself in a trial I never agreed to attend. One evening, after another tense phone call, I sat on the kitchen floor, my phone clutched against my chest. Daniel crouched beside me, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You don't have to earn their approval," he whispered. "You've done enough." I wanted to believe him, but the ache of wanting my parents' love ran too deep. I had spent my whole life chasing their warmth like sunlight through a closed window. A week before the wedding, my mother called. Her voice was cool, careful, the kind of tone people use when they've already made up their minds. "Your father and I have been thinking," she began. "We don't feel comfortable with how extravagant everything has become." I forced a smile even though she couldn't see it. "It's not extravagant, Mom. It's beautiful. It's us." There was a pause. "We won't be attending." My hand went cold. "What?" It just doesn't feel right to support this kind of display. It's not who we are, Leela. You're turning it into a spectacle. Trying to compete with your sister. We love you, but we can't encourage that. The line went silent except for the sound of my breathing, shaky and uneven. You're skipping my wedding, I whispered, because I refused to dim it down for Emily. Don't make this dramatic. She said softly, You've changed. And then she hung up. I sat there staring at the screen until Daniel took the phone from my hand. The world felt smaller, somehow, like the air itself had pulled away. The wedding day arrived with sunlight spilling across the lake and music weaving through the breeze. Everything was exactly how I had imagined. Lanterns floating like stars, soft laughter echoing across the water, Daniel's eyes shining brighter than any light around us. But as I walked down the aisle, 2 seats in the front row were empty, dark and silent against the sea of smiling faces. My throat tightened, but I kept walking. During the reception, I took the microphone. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't falter. Thank you, I said, to everyone who's here tonight. Some couldn't make it, and that's okay, because tonight isn't about who didn't show up. It's about those who chose love over comparison. The crowd clapped softly, moved by something deeper than they could name. I smiled, blinking back tears. 2 empty seats couldn't ruin the beauty of that night. They only made the love around me shine brighter. 3 months passed after the wedding, and my parents still hadn't called. Not a single word, not even a half-hearted congratulations. But the rest of the world had plenty to say. Someone had recorded my wedding speech, that short, trembling message about choosing love over comparison, and posted it online. Within days, it went viral. Strangers sent me messages saying my words had made them cry, reminding them to love boldly, to stop dimming their light for others. My small wedding business suddenly overflowed with new clients. I was working with couples from other cities, even other countries. My phone buzzed nonstop, but every notification just echoed the silence from my parents. Then, one chilly afternoon, the bell above my studio door chimed. When I looked up, I froze. It was Emily. She stood there in a cream coat, clutching a coffee like it was a peace offering. Her perfect hair was still perfect, but her eyes looked tired, softer somehow. Hey, Leela, she said quietly. Can I come in? For a moment, I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to slam the door. Another part wanted to hug her. Instead, I just nodded. She glanced around my studio, her gaze lingering on the mood boards and sketches taped to the walls. You've built something amazing here, she said. I've seen your video. Everyone has. You were incredible. Thanks. I murmured, unsure if it was genuine or just politeness. We sat down, and after a long silence, she whispered, They shouldn't have skipped your wedding. I told them that, but you know how they are. Everything's about appearances. I gave a bitter laugh. Appearances are all they've ever cared about. Emily looked down at her hands. You think I don't know that? Do you have any idea what it's like to be the perfect daughter? To never have a bad day, never make a mistake, never disappoint them? Her voice cracked, and for the first time in my life, I saw her as something other than untouchable. I envied you, Leela, she said softly. You were free. You built your life on your own terms. I built mine on their expectations. Tears stung my eyes before I could stop them. And I spent years thinking you had everything. We laughed through our tears, 2 sisters realizing how much pain had been planted between us, not by choice, but by the people who should have protected us both. From that day, we began to heal. We talked often, even planned a joint project, a bridal line celebrating individuality and imperfection. For the first time, our relationship felt real, not rehearsed. When my parents saw my growing success splashed across magazines and social media, they started to text again. Little things like, "We're proud of you," or "We saw your feature in the paper." But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Their approval, once my life's greatest prize, had lost all its worth. I had my sister back. I had peace, and I had finally stepped out from the perfect shadow that had followed me all my life. 2 years slipped by like the turning pages of a beautiful book. The pain of that phone call, of those empty wedding seats, had softened into something else, strength. I had stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. Instead, I poured my energy into creating beauty for others. My company, Luna Weddings, became a name people recognized. I traveled, designed, spoke at conferences about authenticity and emotion in celebration. My clients didn't just hire me for my eye, they came for my heart. Somewhere along the way, I realized my parents had no power over my light anymore. Then one afternoon, Emily called, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Leela, we're renewing our vows this spring, 10 years, and I want you to design my dress." For a moment I just stared at the phone, stunned. "Me? You sure about that? You know Mom will probably faint." Emily laughed. "Good, maybe she'll finally wake up." I couldn't help but grin. "All right then, let's make it unforgettable." Over the next few months, I poured myself into that gown. It was nothing like the modest satin of her first wedding. This one was bold yet elegant, flowing silk in a soft gold hue, embroidered with delicate vines that shimmered when she moved. It was everything Emily had once been afraid to wear, and now she wore it proudly. The ceremony took place in the very same garden where she'd first said her vows a decade ago. I stood among the guests, watching as she walked down the aisle again, radiant, confident, free. For the first time, she didn't look like the golden child. She looked like herself. Our parents sat in the front row, beaming, proud as ever. They hadn't spoken to me beyond a few polite texts, but when they saw Emily's gown, I noticed my mother's hand fly to her mouth. She whispered something to my father, who just stared at me speechless. During the reception, Emily took the microphone, her voice trembling with emotion. 10 years ago, I promised to love my husband with all that I am. Today, I renew that promise, and I thank the woman who made me feel beautiful in my own skin." She turned, smiling right at me. "My sister designed this dress. She's the most talented planner and designer I know, and the bravest woman I've ever met." Applause filled the garden. Cameras flashed, and for a brief second, my parents' faces froze, realization dawning in their eyes. The daughter they had once dismissed had become someone others celebrated. Later that evening, as guests mingled and laughter drifted through the air, my mother approached me. She hesitated before speaking. "You've done well for yourself, Leela, truly." I met her gaze calmly. "Yes, Mom, I have." She looked down, maybe searching for a script she no longer had. I didn't feel anger anymore, just peace. When the night ended, I stepped outside, the sky glowing with the same kind of lanterns that had once floated above my own wedding. Daniel slipped his arm around my shoulders. "You okay?" he asked. I smiled. Better than okay. Because in the end, I realized revenge didn't have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes it's living beautifully, shining so brightly, that even those who once tried to dim you can't help but see the light. My parents skipped my wedding, but they could never skip my happiness, and that, I thought as the lanterns rose into the night, was the sweetest revenge of all.